Hey everybody. Um, this is Miss Peroni. It is Monday, March the 30th. And I am here with another vocabulary list. So you will need your notebooks and something to write with. And I will get started. If you've had me before in past years, some of these words are probably going to look familiar because I know they've been on past lists. All right, our first word is frugal. It means wise with money and thrifty. Wise with money and thrifty. So basically, you're really careful about how you spend. She only had a tiny amount of money to spend each week, so she was forced to be frugal. So wise with money, thrifty, don't spend more than you need to. You're careful with your money. Right. Magnanimous, magnanimous. This is an adjective, and it means generous and kind and likely to forgive. Generous and kind, likely to forgive. Despite the fact that his son had squandered his money, the father remained magnanimous and continued to believe that his son would one day become frugal. So magnanimous means to be generous and kind and likely to forgive. Munificent, munificent. This adjective means very generous and giving. Very generous and giving. You may recognize that it looks sort of similar to beneficent, which was a word we had a couple of weeks back. And while they're not quite the same, beneficent is about doing good. They still have that very positive connotation. And somebody who is beneficent is probably going to be munificent too. They're going to be very generous and giving. The aunt was munificent, providing large sums to pay for the tuition for her 3 nieces. And I don't think this necessarily has to be related to money, okay? Even though in this sentence it's used in that context and she's giving money, but if you could be munificent with your time or something like that, or skills or whatever. So munificent means very generous and giving. And now we've made a hard turn to a different sort of word or type of words. Those first 3 were very positive connotations, okay? It's a good thing to be frugal and magnanimous and munificent. These, maybe not. Okay, hedonist. That was my dog. There she is again. Are you done? Maybe? No? Okay, I'll wait. Okay. We might describe dogs as hedonists. Hedonists are people who pursue pleasure as the main goal in life. People who pursue pleasure as the main goal in life. Certainly, my dog gets to lay around all day and all she does is eat and sleep and get pets. That seems pretty pleasurable to me. So one who pursues pleasure as the main goal in life. The music festival was a hedonist dream. A 3-day party on white sand beaches. So one who pursues pleasure as the main goal in life. Prodigal. All right, this may be a familiar word if you've heard of the prodigal son. It means spending money. Spending money recklessly, because that's what the prodigal son did in the parable in the Bible. He went out and spent his inheritance. He lived a hedonist lifestyle. He ate and drank and generally debauched himself. Okay. So he spent all his money very recklessly. So prodigal is like the opposite of frugal. So without good financial planning, some celebrities become prodigal, squandering millions in a matter of years. Right. This is an interesting word. This word comes from the Greek. It's sybarite. Is a person who indulges in highly luxurious and sensual things. So similar to a hedonist. But whereas the hedonist is just general pleasure, this is specifically like luxury and sensuality, okay? So it's almost like a level above hedonism, though I think you could safely use them interchangeably. A sybarite could easily spend all day at a spa, getting one luxurious treatment after another. Sure, I don't know, I would like one of those days. I think we could all go for a spa day right now. That wouldn't necessarily make us sybarites, but whatever. We could all use a little indulging right now, I think. Okay. Moving on. Hamstring is to make powerless. So this is hamstring as a verb, not the hamstring that is the main muscle between your knee and your glute. Okay. This is hamstring, a verb. And usually, even though hamstring is the verb, it's usually used in the past tense, the way they use it in the sentence. The committee was hamstrung by severe budget cuts and unable to institute many of the planned changes. So they were made powerless. And think about like if you pull your hamstring, or some even I know like they do more than pull it. And how you are powerless, like you can't hardly do anything. So it's that same sort of idea. If you hamstring someone, or if you make them powerless, you make them unable to do something. All right. But I often, and like, it's always used in this like passive tense, or passive voice, excuse me, was hamstrung. I never say, like, I would never say I hamstrung the committee. Like that's just weird sounding. So was hamstrung, this sense of passive voice. And if you don't know what I'm talking about when I say passive voice, that's always using this form of to be, a past tense form of to be, was, and then the past tense form of the verb. That's passive voice. So it's used in an interesting fashion, but it's usually used in the past tense to make powerless. All right. Aquiline. Aquiline. This is an adjective, and it is used for a very specific purpose. So it describes a person's nose that is hooked like an eagle's beak. Okay, so it describes a person's nose that is hooked like an eagle's beak. So these are, generally speaking, like large noses, and they have this like hook shape to them, and they're generally not thought to be very attractive. Despite his prominent aquiline nose, the actor was still seen as a heartthrob. And actually, Oh, so if you've read Harry Potter, Severus Snape, his nose is described as aquiline. Like that's part of the reason that like he is not an attractive person. He has this like big hooked nose, and he has like lank, greasy, dark hair, and he's just generally not nice to look at. Okay, um, that that's where I remember that word being used last, but it's a good word for describing a character. Okay. um, oh, uh, Jason showed me somebody was doing a cosplay of the food critic from Ratatouille. His nose is sort of aquiline. So if you've seen Ratatouille, or you can go look it up, okay, Disney movie about rats that cook French food. Um, you can get an idea of what I'm talking about. Okay, next word, sanguine. Sanguine. This means cheerfully optimistic. Cheerfully optimistic. With the sudden economic downturn, recent college grads are not sanguine about their job prospects. Okay, so cheerfully optimistic. This word comes out of Latin. Sanguine has to do with blood. The S-A-N, maybe the G. But it's basically Latin for blood. And this actually was originally used as one of the four humors that was used in medicine in the Middle Ages. It was used to describe people's temperaments. And their temperaments were based on the balance of the humors in their body. And the humors were like blood and bile and phlegm might have been one of them, and something else. I don't remember. But the balance of the four humors in your body basically determined your temperament. And like if blood was your like dominant humor, you would be sanguine. You were cheerful and optimistic. There was also choleric, which I think meant you got angry a lot. There was melancholic, which basically you're sort of like sad and depressed. Was no, I can't remember the other one, but whatever, it doesn't really matter. But that's sort of the history of this word, which I find really really fascinating, to know like how this word was originally used. And maybe that can, I don't know, help you remember what it means. So sanguine has to do with blood, or that's the original like Latin word, and it's related to the four humors. And if you're sanguine, your blood humor is dominant, and it means you're cheerful and optimistic. I know that doesn't make a lot of sense, but a lot of things from the Middle Ages don't make sense, so don't worry about it. All right. Our next couple of words are based on words from Greek mythology. So narcissist. This is a person who is overly concerned with the way they look or the way they are perceived. So they are overly concerned with the way one looks or the way they are perceived. And so narcissists often have, we often sort of attach other characteristics to them. Like they tend to be really selfish, and they're really only sort of interested in themselves. Okay, so thus our sentence: he is a narcissist and will spend hours in his room taking selfies, looking for the perfect angle. So I don't know, you might know some social media influencers that you might describe as narcissist. It is also actually I think it ranks as either a personality disorder or like a psychological disorder. Like you can actually be diagnosed as a narcissist when it's really intense, but it can also be used in a more sort of general, non-medical way. And so narcissist comes from Greek mythology. Narcissus, so there's a myth, and I think now I'm going to have to look it up just to make sure that I'm correct about which god. Narcissus. There we go. Okay. So anyways, so there was this young man named Narcissus. And of course, my internet is being really slow on my phone. And I think he was a beautiful young man, and I think the god Apollo fell in love with him. But Narcissus, like spurned his advances, was like, no, thank you. I'm not interested in you, Apollo. And so, because you never spurn the gods, because they get angry, Apollo cursed him to fall in love with the like next thing that he saw, so he would know, and that thing would like never love him. So like Narcissus would know the pain that he caused. And what happened was that Narcissus glanced into a pool of water and saw his own reflection, and he fell in love with his own reflection, and he never moved from that spot. And he turned into a narcissus flower, which I think looks like a lily, but I could totally be wrong. And he was transformed basically into this flower. And so that's where we get a narcissist from. Is there somebody who is really focused on how they look? So that's where that comes from. And I think you can find that in Ovid's Metamorphoses. Okay, so herculean. All right. I would guess that you could probably guess what this word means if you know who Hercules is. And I'm kind of assuming that you do. All right. That at the very least, maybe you've seen the Disney movie Hercules. It's a really not the best Disney movie ever, but you know, whatever. So Herculean means requiring great effort. Okay. It requires a lot of effort. Right. So for many, it required Herculean effort not to return for a second helping of the delicious cheesecake. Okay. So this idea of they worked really hard to resist that temptation for the cheesecake. And this actually refers, regarding Hercules, not like, yes, he was like super strong. But this thing about effort. So Hercules in sort of his cycle of stories. So if you don't know, Hercules was the half divine son of Zeus. He had a mortal mother or a human mother. And one of the things he had to do to like prove himself was to do these 12 labors that were supposed to be, you know, that would have been impossible for a human to do. But because he was Hercules, because he was half god, he was able to carry out these 12 labors. Like he had to fight a bunch of monsters. He had to get some golden apples out of a garden. He did all this stuff. And so he put forth all of this effort to complete these labors. And so that's where this word really comes from. Okay. Chimera. Chimera. This is a noun. This is an illusion or an unattainable idea. An illusion, ILLUSION, or an unattainable idea. All right, so achieving speed of light travel, despite what the movies tell you, is a chimera. Okay, so it's an illusion, or it's unattainable. It's just, some people once thought that going to space, landing a man on the moon, was simply a chimera. Okay, we have since proved that incorrect. Okay, so chimera, this also comes out of Greek mythology. A chimera is a Greek mythological beast, and it is like many sort of Greek mythological beasts. It is made up of several different animals. And I don't remember which ones the chimera is. You could look it up. I would, but my internet is being so stupid right now. And it's just super irritating. Let's see if it'll do it for chimera. Oh yeah, there it goes. Okay. So, originally in Greek mythology, it was, and I'm just reading this off of the Google dictionary, it was a monster with a lion's head, a goat's body, and a serpent's tail. and it breathed fire. So, so it was this fantastical creature. So similar, like a centaur is a man and a horse, or the Sphinx, you know, it's the body of a lion and the head of a female, or the head of a woman, or the minotaur, which is sort of the man bull thing. Okay, Greek mythology always has these wonderful sort of uh, strange monster things that are bits and pieces of other things. But so chimera, it's a fantastical beast, it's imaginary, right? And so that's where we get to that idea of it's an illusion. Okay, or even the idea of it being unattainable. You could never like actually have a chimera, right? You couldn't put together a lion and a goat and a snake tail, and like the tail, the end of the tail is actually the snake, is actually a snake head, right? That's an unattainable animal. Like you couldn't actually do that biologically. So that's where we get that idea of that meaning of the word, where it's an illusion or an impossible idea. Okay, so those are your words. Those last three were super fun. I like talking about Greek mythology, and it's really cool to see those words come up in a thing. Greek mythology is so much fun. Okay, so this list is on vocabulary.com. It is vocab number 20. And as always, the same rules still apply. You must get 90% or above. You must text it to me through Remind 101 or send me an email. And I need to be able to see your name in your screenshot. Okay? All right. So, oh, well, whatever. I didn't, okay. I don't have my webcam working for this one, but more is going to be coming later this week, probably tomorrow. We've gotten some information about what teachers are supposed to do, but of course that had no direction for AP teachers because what they're doing for regular classes is not what we need for AP. So hopefully I'm just going to be able to roll out some things I already had planned. So yes, and by the end of this week, we should be getting more information on what the AP exam will be looking like. And I think once we do that, once I have that, I think maybe I can move forward a little more coherently. Because I'll be really honest with you guys, no one knows what they're doing. We're just all doing the best we can, and I know that you are doing the best you can too. So if you need anything, I am here for you. Even if you just text me to say hi, I would love that. That would totally make my day because I really miss you guys. And that's all I'm gonna say. Is that I miss you and I love you. And I will talk to you later.